right now there are about 158,000 trucks rolling down the highways of Georgia.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a lot of trucks.
Right. But here's the crazy part. 91% of them are shipping, well, they're basically shipping empty air.
It's wild. It really is.
Anyway, welcome to the deep dive. We're calling today's session the warehouse reality check because, the next time you're stuck in traffic next to a massive 18-wheeler, you're going to look at it completely differently.
Absolutely.
We are uncovering this huge multi-million-dollar blind spot in modern corporate digital transformations today. So whether you work in supply chain or you're just insanely curious about how the world actually works, you're about to have a pretty major aha moment.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal topic, and we're basing this on a really fascinating source today. It's a document provided by ProvisionAi called ebook-costlymistake.pdf.
Catchy title.
Right. But it outlines this massive systemic failure in how companies move physical goods. Because, you have these giant consumer goods companies, and they're spending millions on incredibly sophisticated AI and forecasting algorithms.
Right.
But then the physical execution, like actually putting boxes in a truck, it just falls completely flat.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the core irony here is it's staggering. Companies are building these massive virtual replicas of their whole supply chain, right?
Yeah, the digital twins.
Exactly, digital twins. So they can simulate and optimize literally every single step of their business. They know, down to the decimal point, how much inventory they need in Chicago by Tuesday.
Right, the data is perfect.
But then when it actually comes time to load the physical trucks to deliver those goods, they're dispatching trailers that are just severely underloaded.
Yeah, and that 91% stat from the Georgia survey, those trucks weren't just missing a box or two.
Yeah.
They were significantly below their capacity.
So why does that happen? I mean, natural assumption is to just blame the people on the floor, right? The warehouse staff is rushing, or the truck drivers are just trying to get on the road and go home.
Yeah, you assume it's human error on the dock. But what's fascinating here is that the data reveals something much deeper. This is not a lazy driver issue. It's not a dock worker mistake. It is a fundamental planning failure, way upstream at headquarters.
A planning failure. Okay, the text mentions that legacy supply chain planning tools basically treat the actual loading of the truck as a black box.
Yes.
I really want to understand the mechanics of that failure. How does this incredibly expensive software get it so wrong?
It basically comes down to spreadsheet math versus physical 3D reality. Most legacy systems use what's called a simple cube method.
Okay, cube method.
Right. So they take the total volume of a 53-foot trailer. Let's say it's 4,000 cubic feet. Then they look at the volume of the products ordered, which might be 3,500 cubic feet.
Right.
The software just does the raw math, sees that 3,500 is less than 4,000, and it just stamps it approved.
So it's treating the inside of the truck like it's just a giant bucket of water.
Exactly.
You can just pour the volume in and it'll slosh around and fit.
That's exactly it. But physical products obviously aren't liquid. The software doesn't realize that a pallet of paper towels is a specific rectangular shape, or, that you cannot stack a heavy pallet of canned soup on top of a fragile pallet of potato chips.
Oh, man, yeah, the chips would just be dust.
Right. The software just adds up raw numbers in a vacuum. It completely lacks any kind of spatial reasoning.
It's okay, imagine you spend $2 million on this high-tech AI-powered smart kitchen, right?
Okay.
And it perfectly tracks your family's meals. It orders the exact right amount of groceries. The software knows you need 40 pounds of food, and it calculates that your refrigerator has 45 pounds of volume capacity.
I see where this is going.
So it says, perfect, it all fits. But then the groceries arrive, and you realize, wait, a whole watermelon does not fit inside the butter tray.
No, it doesn't.
And you can't balance a gallon of milk on top of a cardboard carton of eggs. The system gave you this mathematically perfect plan that is physically impossible to execute.
That captures the disconnect perfectly. It really does. And because these corporate planners are relying on tools that only understand raw volume and weight totals, they're designing shipments that literally cannot be built on the dock floor.
And the consequences of that are pretty staggering, according to the source.
Oh, massive. Because what happens, you end up dispatching 2 partially filled trailers instead of 1 fully optimized trailer.
Right, which means burning extra fuel.
Extra fuel, adding unnecessary miles to the highway, and causing a massive spike in Scope 3 carbon emissions.
And just to clarify for everyone, Scope 3 means the carbon footprint generated by a company's third-party freight and logistics partners, not their own internal factories.
Exactly.
In an era where every major corporation is putting out press releases promising to cut emissions, shipping empty space is, it's practically negligent.
It really is.
But, reading through the source material, I had a moment of confusion regarding the weight side of the equation. So I want to pose a logical challenge here.
Okay, let's hear it.
If a truck has a maximum gross weight limit, let's say it's 80,000 pounds, and all the cargo sitting on the dock only weighs 45,000 pounds.
Right.
Why does the geometry matter at that point? Like, can't the loaders just toss the pallets wherever they want inside the trailer as long as they don't exceed that 80,000-pound cap?
That is a trap. That is a trap that even really seasoned logistics planners fall into all the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They assume legal loads are just an execution detail, just, something the guys in the dock will figure out. But legal weight is not just about the total number on the scale.
Okay.
You have to be what's called axle aware.
Axle aware. Break that down for us. How does being axle aware change the math?
So think about the anatomy of an 18-wheeler. You have the steering axle at the very front of the cab, then the drive axles in the middle where the truck connects to the trailer, and then the tandem trailer axles at the very back.
Okay, tracking.
The Department of Transportation doesn't just regulate the gross weight of the whole vehicle. They have extremely strict limits on how much weight can sit on each individual set of axles.
Oh, I see. So it's a balancing act. If you put too much weight all the way up in the nose of the trailer, you overload the drive axles in the middle.
Precisely. Or, think about it the other way. If you load 40,000 pounds of dense liquid laundry detergent right over the rear trailer axles, it acts like a giant seesaw.
Oh, wow.
It can literally alter the traction of the steering tires at the very front of the truck.
That sounds incredibly dangerous.
It is incredibly dangerous to drive. And on top of that, concentrated weight destroys highway infrastructure. So a truck can be, say, 10,000 pounds under the legal gross weight limit, but if the load isn't perfectly balanced across those specific axles, it is a completely illegal truck.
And if that unbalanced truck pulls into a weigh station on the interstate, the highway patrol, they're not going to care about the company's AI-optimized delivery schedule.
Not at all. They will sideline the truck immediately it gets detained.
Wow.
Yeah, so your product is now sitting on the shoulder of the highway, accumulating massive fines, and completely missing its delivery window to the retailer.
That is wild. And the source also brings up how wildly these rules vary by location. There's this specific rule mentioned called the California Bridge Formula that seems to just cause endless headaches on shipping docks.
Yes.
But the text points out that the name itself is actually a misunderstanding of the law, right?
Yeah, the terminology gets completely tangled up on the dock floor through basically tribal knowledge.
Right.
When people in a warehouse complain about the California Bridge Formula, they're usually confusing two completely different regulations.
Okay, what do they actually mean?
What they usually mean is the California Axle Placement Law, specifically the kingpin restriction.
The kingpin restriction. Okay, what exactly is a kingpin in this context?
The kingpin is this heavy steel pivot pin on the underside of the front of the trailer. It is the exact point where the trailer locks into the truck's cab. So California law mandates that the center of the rearmost trailer axle must be no more than 40 feet from that kingpin.
40 feet? Why 40 feet? Like, what does that actually accomplish?
It's all about the turning radius.
Oh, sure.
Right. California has dense cities, tight intersections.
Right.
By forcing the rear axles closer to the middle of the trailer, it prevents the back of that 53-foot trailer from swinging wide into other lanes or, taking out a stop sign when the truck makes a sharp right turn.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does. But by forcing those axles forward, you severely restrict how much weight you can put in the very back of the trailer.
Because there are no axles directly underneath to support it.
Exactly. It's just hanging out there.
Man, that sounds like a nightmare for the person trying to load the truck. And how does the actual bridge formula differ from that kingpin rule?
So the actual federal bridge formula is a nationwide mathematical formula designed to protect real highway bridges.
Okay.
It dictates that the maximum allowable weight depends on the distance between the axles. The farther apart your axles are, the more weight you are legally allowed to carry, because you're spreading that burden over a wider span of the bridge's support beams.
Wait, let me make sure I'm picturing this correctly. The federal rule rewards you for pushing your axles as far apart as possible to carry more weight?
Yes.
But the California kingpin rule forces you to pull your axles closer together for turning radius, which lowers your weight capacity in the back.
Exactly the tension.
Wow.
You have these competing physical restrictions, varying by state, blurring together into these confusing rules of thumb.
Yeah,
Now, imagine being a warehouse loader making $20 an hour.
right.
You have an impatient truck driver tapping his watch, a dock full of pallets, and you are trying to mentally calculate federal bridge physics, state-specific kingpin rules, and 3D stacking geometry all in your head.
It is an impossible ask. It really is.
Yeah.
And that brings us to what the text calls the collision between theoretical plans and physical reality.
Yes, if we connect this to the bigger picture.
Yeah, let's transition from the highway regulations back to the shipping dock. Because HQ sends down this pristine, mathematically perfect batch of orders generated by some algorithm. What actually happens when that spreadsheet hits the dock floor?
Complete chaos.
Yeah.
The loader starts driving their forklift into the trailer, trying to follow the plan. But immediately, they hit a snag. The software didn't realize that pallet number 4 is top-heavy and needs to be wedged against the wall.
Right.
Or maybe the software tells them to put a pallet of heavy canned goods on top of paper products. And the forklift driver just refuses because they know the paper will be crushed the moment the truck hits a pothole.
The source invokes Murphy's Law here, and it illustrates it with a really painful scenario.
Like so common too.
The loader gets, say, 22 pallets into the trailer. They realize they've run out of space, or they realize they're about to be overweight on the rear axle. But they still have 2 pallets left on the dock. What do?
Well, they don't have a team of engineers right there to recalculate the entire 3D geometry of the truck in real time.
Right, obviously not.
So they do the only thing they can do. They leave the last 2 pallets on the dock, close the trailer doors, and send the truck on its way.
And because of Murphy's Law, those 2 specific pallets left sitting by the forklift are inevitably the high-priority items that a major customer urgently needs.
That is the most damaging part of all of this. This failure destroys what supply chains call ATP, available to promise inventory.
Available to promise. Okay.
The central computer at corporate headquarters thinks, great, the algorithm worked, those 24 pallets are on the truck, the customer gets them tomorrow.
But the physical reality is that 2 of them are stranded in a warehouse in Ohio.
Exactly.
So the customer is expecting products that literally never left the dock. And the financial penalty for that isn't just, a slap on the wrist.
Not at all. Major retailers impose what are called O2 fines. That stands for on time, in full.
On time in full.
Right. If a supplier promises a delivery and falls short, the retailer will charge a stripped percentage penalty on the entire cost of goods. And those fines eat directly into a company's profit margins.
It creates this fascinating psychological response within these companies, which the source called defensive planning.
Yes.
It's like, okay, let's say you have a GPS app on your phone and it tells you the airport is 30 minutes away. But the last 2 times you followed it, the app took you down a closed road, you got stuck in traffic, and you completely missed your flight.
Right.
The next time you have to fly, you don't trust the app anymore. So you leave for the airport 6 hours early. You waste half your day sitting at the terminal just to protect yourself from the faulty system.
That is a brilliant analogy for defensive planning. Because corporate planners get burned so many times by these OTIF fines and delayed trucks that they simply stop trying to optimize.
They just give up.
They realize their legacy software can't handle the physical reality of the dock. So to ensure they don't accidentally go overweight or run out of room, they artificially lower their targets.
Right.
They might issue a company-wide mandate saying, only load trailers to 80% of their actual capacity.
Which just institutionalizes the waste. If you drop your truck utilization from 90% down to 80% across a fleet of thousands of trucks, you are artificially forcing hundreds of extra, completely unnecessary trucks onto the highway every single day.
You are paying for the whole trailer, but you're only using 4/5 of it.
Yeah.
All the massive financial gains promised by their multi-million-dollar digital transformations just vanish into thin air, all because they cannot master the final 50 feet of the warehouse.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because to solve this, you clearly can't just throw a better forecasting algorithm at the problem. You need a system that simultaneously thinks in 3D geometry, understands state axle laws, and knows the crush weight of a potato chip box.
Right.
And this is where the source material provides a real structural fix. They highlight ProvisionAi and a specific tool they've developed called AutoO2.
Yes. AutoO2 represents a fundamental shift away from legacy volume-based load building. It operates as a load feasibility engine.
Okay, load feasibility engine.
It bridges the gap by acting as a reality check on the planner's ideal spreadsheet before it ever reaches the warehouse.
How does it actually do that math, though? Like, take us under the hood a bit.
What starts with axle-aware planning. Remember those complex regulations we discussed? The Illinois restrictions, the Tennessee limits, the California kingpin rule.
Right, the headache rules.
Auto-O2 factors all of those in mathematically. It looks at the specific route the truck is taking, understands the wheelbase of the specific truck assigned to the load, and calculates the weight distribution across every single axle.
So it's doing the physics homework in advance.
Exactly. It ensures the load plan is legally sound across every state border it crosses.
So it eliminates that guessing game for the truck driver at the weigh station.
Yes.
But what about the physical loading? Does it solve the Tetris puzzle on the dock?
That is the second crucial component, physical simulation. Auto-O2 generates a highly precise 3D load diagram.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it knows the exact dimensions, the weight, and the fragility of every single item. It knows that heavy liquids must go on the floor and fragile items go on top.
Wow.
It even accounts for site-specific labor capabilities.
Wait, what does that mean, labor capabilities?
So, for example, if a distribution center relies on forklifts that carry pallets in pairs to maximize efficiency, the software will actually try to design the load sequence so the pallets can be picked from the racks in pairs.
No way.
Yeah, while still hitting perfect axle weight.
That is remarkable. It isn't just optimizing the truck for the highway. It is optimizing the labor efficiency inside the warehouse at the exact same time.
It is.
And I think the most critical aspect of this is how it changes the life of the person actually driving the forklift. The source mentions that Auto-O2 provides step-by-step loading instructions.
It democratizes the entire process. Historically, warehouses rely heavily on tribal knowledge.
Right, the veteran guy.
Exactly. You have one veteran loader who's been there for 20 years. He just instinctively knows you can't double stack the shampoo. Or he remembers exactly where to place the heavy pallets to satisfy those California rules.
But what happens when that guy retires? Or he just calls in sick on a Tuesday?
The whole operation grinds to a halt, or you start getting fines again.
Yeah.
With a tool like Auto-O2, that tribal knowledge is digitized and verified mathematically. A brand new loader can look at a tablet, see a visual 3D model of the trailer, and get step-by-step Lego-like instructions on exactly what pallet to grab and exactly where to place it.
That's incredible. And what if, I don't know, what if reality throws a curveball? Say a forklift accidentally damages a pallet of goods right there on the dock, and it can't be loaded.
The system doesn't just crash. It dynamically recalculates the 3D geometry on the spot.
Really?
Yeah, it suggests a substitute product from the warehouse and rebalances the axle weight so the truck can still leave completely full.
It essentially replaces opinions with mathematically verifiable facts. And the financial return on moving from opinions to facts is pretty undeniable. The source cites a case study published in Inbound Logistics regarding Riviana Foods.
Right, a $500 million division of Ebro.
Yeah. And by implementing proper load optimization, by utilizing Auto-O2 to fill trucks smartly, safely, and legally, they saved $1 million a year.
And keep in mind that $1 million is just the hard freight savings.
Right, just the truck.
That doesn't account for all the soft savings. The drastic reduction in dock worker overtime because trucks are loading smoothly, the decrease in damaged goods because the pallets are structurally stable.
Yeah, the ships aren't getting crushed.
Right. And the massive drop in Scope 3 emissions because they took excess trucks off the road entirely.
So what does this all mean? If I'm putting this all together, the real takeaway from this ProvisionAi research is that supply chain planning without load feasibility is basically an exercise in fiction.
It really is.
You can have the smartest AI demand forecast in the world, predicting consumer behavior down to the millisecond. But if your software doesn't know how to physically arrange boxes inside a 53-foot metal box to satisfy Highway Patrol axle limits, your digital transformation is just an illusion.
You cannot separate the digital intent from the physical capability. Good companies plan their supply chains, but great companies execute them physically. Making your plans executable on the dock floor is the only way to actually realize the ROI of these massive corporate tech investments.
And for you listening, whether you are managing global logistics or you just enjoy understanding the hidden mechanics of the world around you, Grasping this gap between theory and execution really changes your perspective.
It does.
It leaves us with a fascinating, slightly unsettling question to ponder. If our corporate software is so unbelievably smart today, we have to ask ourselves what other massive hidden inefficiencies in our world are we completely ignoring simply because we assume someone else will just figure it out on the ground floor.
It makes you wonder how many other systems are running at 80% capacity just because of defensive planning.
It really does. Well, next time you see an 18-wheeler, you'll know the mathematical gymnastics happening inside that trailer. Thank you for joining us for this warehouse reality check, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.